We're now live, Chair.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And welcome members, officers and cabinet members. Welcome to this strategy meeting this evening. It's really great to see you all tonight. First of all, can I thank everyone for attending the events in memory of Her Majesty over the past week or 2 weeks. There's been a lot of events going on in Calderdale, and I want to thank our members for attending. I think this is probably one of the first meetings back, I feel, following the so I felt it was quite right to mention that. Item number 1, substitutes. Janet, do we have any substitutes?
We do, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillor Kearney, and substituting for him tonight is Councillor Hutchinson.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome there. Item number 2, interest. Does any member have any interest on anything on the agenda? Nope. Item number 3, yep, the public are allowed. We are live on YouTube. Number 4, the minutes of the last meeting held on the 24th of August. Are there any comments on the last meeting on the minutes? Nope. In that case, can I propose them as a true and accurate record? Can I have a seconder? Councillor Barnes, all in favour, please? Yeah, perfect, and that's carried. Item number 5, the capital outturn report. Welcome, Chris. Welcome to the meeting. It's good to see you as always. Thank you for the report. I must admit, I really enjoyed the layout of this report. I thought it was very easy to read. I liked the breakdown at the end of the report as well. So thank you for that. Is there anything you want to add to the report, Chris?
I don't think there's anything I go into the detail, as the report's pretty straightforward. I think this year, I think it's more if there's any questions, I'll field them. But
perfect. Thank you, Chris. Members, any questions? If we can use the raise hand function, that would be appreciated. But I'll kick off whilst members are finding the raise the hand function. Chris, obviously you've been in post now for a few months. I know you're thoroughly enjoying the role. How are you finding it? How are you finding Calderdale? And have you got any broad comments about your experiences to date?
To date, I've quite enjoyed the council. I enjoy its size and the aspirations it has. I think it's a good size. It's nicely resourced, and it's able to make that difference in the local area. So that's what I came up here for, and it seems to really care about having that impact. So yeah, today I've enjoyed it. I've met a lot of good people. I'm enjoying working with them as well.
Good, perfect. I think that's a nice introduction to the report. I like that. Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted clarification. There's the underspend of 35 million on the capital budget. I'm assuming that's been returned to reserves. Is that correct?
So this is the we underspent 35 million against the initial forecast.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was not something we necessarily pulled down. It's more they've been rolled into future years. So we don't borrow in advance of need or anything like that. So it's not a case of we return it to reserves. It's just resources we didn't necessarily borrow to deliver those elements of the scheme. They just get rolled forward.
Okay, I'm with you. Thanks.
Very good. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, I agree. I like this report. It's simple and easy to read. 4.11 refers to the sum of 892,000 that did not meet the criteria of capital expenditure, and it relates this is to feasibility studies. I mean, this is a concern when we are making bids, and it has been raised previous, and Chris probably for your time. And definitely in some scrutiny meetings I've been in so many scrutiny meetings over the last couple of years, I can't remember which one it was and even which board it was. But one of the concerns was the fact that we're having to spend the money in feasibility studies on the hope of getting money back to offset that. Is this what we're relating to here? Is this where we've had to spend money preparing feasibility studies to make bids for other money? Let's say the Levelling Up Fund. Is that what we're talking about here?
That can be part of it. It can also be that we've done investigative work, feasibility study, and the scheme doesn't happen. If the scheme doesn't then follow through, it becomes a revenue pressure rather than a capital one. So a lot of these schemes, we'll do work to see if it's viable. We'll have a capital budget. It'll turn out that we don't go forward with the scheme, then it becomes a revenue pressure. So it's a case of being prudent when we select schemes to try and ensure that we pick ones that we are confident will move forward. As you say, some of the others we will be match funding, or it might just be that we've undertaken certain spend, which we thought would be capital, but when we come to the year-end wash up and we go through our records to check, it didn't quite meet the capital criteria. So an asset that's going to be used over multiple years that the council owns, or if it's REFCUS, that revenue expenditure funded by capital under statute, something like that. So we do DFG works, that gets capitalised even if we don't own it. So it can be some of those technical areas as well.
So sorry, Jack, let's come back. So it's not a question mark of the revenue budget being dropped, other projects having less spend available. It's just an accounting term. Is that realistic?
Some of it will be, yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Any more questions from members whilst I open it up? Chris, could you just in relation to the paragraph 4.1.1 about the difference there, could you just explain that to the board? Is that okay? Just how that's come about? So
this £892,000.
Yes, and also the 53.54 million
versus a 54. Yeah,
how that works. Yeah.
So essentially we incurred that capital expenditure, the 53.54, and then on top of that, within the program, we had that 892k. So when we did our year-end checks for audit purposes and putting together statement of accounts, it didn't quite meet that. A reasonable amount of that would be things like, as we say, the feasibility study. So we'd have suggested we'll do a new scheme, like say putting in a load of park benches in a park. We won't go forward with the scheme, but I spent 100k determining what that scheme should look like. That goes over into revenue. But as the report specifies, it's funded from existing resources. So it's not like it becomes a revenue pressure that we weren't anticipating. With any capital program, with any of these schemes, you would have an element of these things that don't move forwards. And it won't be necessarily it's lost. In future years, they might come back on stream, but we'll have done that feasibility work. So I think moving forwards, we'll be trying to put together a pipeline of projects to have on the shelf that require feasibility and some revenue budgets for the PMs and what have you, but we won't be able to capitalize that stuff until the scheme actually starts moving forwards. So really that's what's driving that difference.
Perfect. No, that makes sense. Thank you. Like you say, it's on the shelf for future, isn't it, really? Mm-hmm. Good. Any more questions from members? Nope. In that case, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for the report. A nice, short but sweet. I think that summarises it. And thank you for coming today. We appreciate your time. Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Good. On to the next item number 6. We've got the wonderful Jackie here this evening, who's reporting on the workforce strategy. Jackie, over to you. Is there anything you want to add?
Just take myself off mute if I can. Thank you, Councillor Robinson, for that nice introduction. I think the report says it all, really. I mean, members might want to ask a little bit further detail on various things. I could have gone on and on with this report, but I'm conscious that, obviously we can have a discussion and perhaps have further conversation on anything specific that you might want to look at into further. Things that I didn't mention, we're focusing on the traded service accounts for HR and OD in terms of raising the income that comes into the council to make sure that we are as self-sufficient as we possibly can be. And I'm pleased to report that we've had a really successful year in terms of accounts. Just taking recruitment alone, we've tripled that income in the last year, which is no mean feat for a little team of 4 in recruitment, but is something that we've seen a bit of an opening in the market. I won't say too much because obviously it's a public meeting, and we've exploited that really in terms of what we can do to bring further income in. We've managed to retain our traded services with the schools and academies, and in some cases where they've joined a multi-academy trust, they could go to the provider of the other trusts or the other academies, and what we've managed to do is secure not only the existing school or academy, but also brought in new ones as well to our offer. So in terms of our priorities for the year, that's certainly one, to make sure that we continue to build on that and make sure we're as commercially viable as we can be and that we meet our business planning objectives. So I didn't touch on much of that in the report really, because it wasn't what you asked for, but I think it's something that councillors might be interested in. So I'll pause there. I don't know if you want to invite questions or if you want me to run through anything else that's in the report. I'm sure everybody's read it.
No, no, absolutely. Thank you, Jackie. The questions are flooding in already. So we've got Councillor Barnes.
Oh, he's on mute, I think.
Oh.
I've not heard.
Sorry, my iPad. Sorry about my iPad. A couple of things. One, you're having, this is Appendix 2, you're looking to have the workforce strategy by early February 2023. Will that be brought back to this scrutiny to look at?
Yeah, it can be, no problem. If you would like to see that back at scrutiny, I can bring that back, no problem at all. And it probably makes sense to do so, Councillor Barnes.
I think I would like that, Chair, if that can be added and looked at later on in the meeting if necessary. The second thing is apprenticeships. I'm conscious of the pressures on staff, and this isn't just at the top level. This is a potential drain of resources and knowledge throughout the council from right the way down. And I think apprenticeships, we really should be pushing this. We really should be growing our own, and I think it's an important facet going forward, because we're never going to be able to pay the money that Leeds and Bradford and Manchester can pay, and people can live in Calderdale, enjoy the benefits of Calderdale, and very easily, well, subject not the 503 to Huddersfield, as Councillor Parsons is aware of, but it's easy to commute to Leeds and Manchester from this area. So we're always going to have that hitting us. So I think apprenticeships is something we really need to be focusing on and maximising our resources on going forward.
Absolutely. Do you want me to respond to that, Chair?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jackie.
Absolutely. When I reported last, which is just less than 6 months ago, I mentioned about the apprenticeship opportunities, the growing our own, the graduates, the internship. We're launching a new programme this autumn, and I've just had a meeting prior to this meeting with the one of my direct reports that's leading on this. And one of the things that we're looking at is how we remodel that apprenticeship offer. But we're doing quite well on it, and I think that's probably because we're a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of our offer. But I don't think we should rest on our laurels, which I've said in the report. I think there's existing opportunities that we can capture and sort of market. You'll notice in the report I attached the T levels approach that we're doing with the LGA, which is another approach at recruitment of apprenticeships. Of course, our open apprenticeship scheme is open to all age groups, and we have got significantly probably I'd say about a third of those apprentices that are mature apprenticeships where people have changed their career. They are predicting that at least 1 in 6 will change their career at almost 4 times in the lifespan of their employment. So that tells us something about making sure that we are able to grow our own into different capacities. We've got some real successes, and Chair, with your permission, if I could come back at a later date to do something on the recruitment campaigns that we're actually running around this apprenticeship scheme, I think it'd be really helpful for members to see exactly what we're doing and some of the successes that we've got for people to talk about how they came into the organisation and where they are now. And you know, some of those are in social work, HR and OD, across finance, across legal, and it'd be good for the employees themselves to talk about their experience. And this is how we retain that loyalty that I talk about in the report, and that we really have to optimise on, as we are the smallest player within. We're still a medium-sized council, but obviously we have sandwiched between the two larger authorities. But you're absolutely right, Councillor Barnes, we're doing an awful lot of work around this, and it's the future. I reported last time that we had 200 apprenticeships for new and existing staff, and that's growing by, obviously, following the pandemic and reset and restart, they're growing further. And we're going into schools now, which we weren't able to do during the pandemic, to do a lot more work around getting ready to apply campaign and work experiences, which we're really planning a lot more work around to give people, you know, the young people an opportunity to come in and experience some of the services before they apply and see what we do.
Perfect. That's really insightful. And before we just continue, I'd just like to outline to the board members how I think this is such an important area when we look at workforce. And as a board over the next year, if we really want something where we can add value, where we can help, where we can something which we can get our teeth into, I think this is a really important area. I'm thinking that over the next few years, this will be the biggest challenge for the council, recruiting, not necessarily just recruiting people, but also recruiting the right people who fit within our local authority and the culture we want to create. Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'm really pleased to see the T-level being used as a route in to get people having experience of what actually goes on within the council. But the paper was written July 22nd, July 22, and I wasn't clear whether they'd be starting this academic year or next academic year. Which is it?
Okay, so what we're working with the Local Government Association on this, and we want them to start as soon as we possibly can. They're doing a lot of the groundwork with us, and this is part of the launch of the autumn campaign for apprenticeships, graduates, intern. The T levels are part and parcel of that. We've got a meeting next week with regard to when that will officially be launched, and I can report back on that at the same time when I come back about the recruitment campaigns. But what we've said, and we've got some fantastic support from the LGA on this, they're almost doing it with us. I nominated us as a pilot scheme, and we got selected because I responded to a survey that they wanted all HRDs to do. And I have to say that we're really privileged to get this support from the LGA direct, because they're kind of using it as a bit of a trial, really, to see how it pans out and how it works. But the support that we're getting from them is phenomenal. And what we've said is, look, we want to get on board this year if we can. And they're working with us to say, you know, okay, if we can do that, we can, you know, it's ambitious, but we will try and support you to do that this academic year and start to, you know, to bring people in now, not wait for another year. It's too late to wait for another year, is my view. So I'm pushing it. It's a bit of a pushing deadline from my perspective, and we know we've got a lot of work to do before we can, you know, we need to walk before we run, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and which areas of work are you looking to set the first T grade students loose on?
Okay, so what we've said is anything that's got a technical background. So we've, you know, some of the areas that we would like to focus on are our weaknesses, you know, where we know that we need to grow people really quickly. So your legal, your finance, you know, there's planning, engineering, you know, it's a variety really. But what we've said is no holes are barred on this. We want to just look at it from across the spectrum even, with regard to looking at the entire work, you know, where we've previously had issues with recruitment that are known, and the national social care, etc., social worker, sorry, we're now seeing the new ones like social care, which has never been an issue, but suspect following the pandemic, you know, this is going to be an issue where private employers are offering significant golden hellos and handshakes, if you like, for people to cross over and do a role that is less technical but more money, and we're competing against that. And we need to really work with some of our stakeholders, providers, the place, if you like, in terms of how we can grow social care staff and support the NHS, for example, to feed into, my ambition or aspiration is that we feed the nursing profession through our social care, because a good social care person that understands the complexity of dealing with people that are, released from hospital, for example, early, back into a care setting, then have to go back into the system, understanding the challenges that are created for a care home, for example, but working with the NHS to understand as well that they too have got to, release patients as timely as they can with an appropriate care plan. So I'd like to work with, and this is the work that we're doing across the HR directors, working with other providers to say, okay, how can we, rather than us all fishing in the same pool for staff, how can we support your agenda at the same time feed our problems with recruitment, for example, and social care. Not every person that leaves school is going to leave with the qualifications that is now required to go into the NHS. And there is other pathways that we're looking at, and T-levels might be one of them. So we're exploring all that with the LGA contact that we've been given.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Councillor Sutherland.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jackie, for the presentation. Other members have already commented on the importance of growing your own and looking internal. I think what I'd also take from this and what you've said is the strength of the service in looking outwards, whether it's more traded services in schools or picking up on winning some free support from the LGA for a pilot to do something new. And I think that's something really important in terms of what I know you do in looking out there for what's new and what could we bring to Calderdale that'll have some benefit. I notice, as in all the reports we've had for many years on this topic, that social workers are a problem, and it often feels like our recruitment and retention of social workers are a problem, and it often feels like we and the other local authorities neighbouring us are in constant competition. We work together on transport projects, we work together on employment projects, but it feels like in this area we sometimes we're in competition. Do you think there is any scope to work more closely with our neighbouring authorities to try and address issues like this, which span across the region?
Yeah, I do, Councillor Sutherland. We're just, the last two HR directors meetings, we've been discussing this, that it's a bone of contention, shall we say, that we grow our own in Calderdale. We put them through the teaching partnership arrangement. We give them real support, fantastic leadership skills. And then, a neighbouring authority might, increase the salary, and we can't compete with that, and we're buying loyalty almost at the time when we bring people in and trying to invest in our staff. But what I've said at the HR directors meeting is, look, this is not fair. You all need to start with a grow your own programme similar, and we all need to be on the same page instead of us all fishing in the same pool for the same people, and support each other. And so there's a pilot going on at the moment. The first meeting was last week, and my OD manager Jane Kirk has attended that, and there's some significant work going on around how we do that, so that that we're all on a level footing, shall we say, in terms of our offer, and that we're not poaching from each other, and we're all growing our own at the same time. There's also Julie Jenkins has done a great piece of work, the Director of Children and Young People Service, in terms of a memo of understanding about things like agency workers, where there won't be this race to the top and competing, other than those authorities that are in intervention, which we know are going to be challenged, and they've got to deal with the immediate problems that they've got to protect our children and young people, whichever area that they're in. But there is a memo of understanding now that that we've all signed up to, and it's been no mean feat that Julie's got that across the line, to ensure that that doesn't happen again. It happened probably when Stuart Smith was the Director of Children's, and I think that went by the wayside, I suppose. As I always say, when poverty comes through the door, love goes out the window, and it's every man for themselves sort of thing. You just need to sort your own area out. But there's got to to be. We've all got to work together on this as a public sector. So there's an awful lot of work going on to try and support each other, but at the same time, stop robbing from Peter to pay Paul, really, I suppose.
I think that's a really, really good question and a very good response there. Just to ask this question, Jackie, I think it's regularly accepted that in some employment contracts there'll be for want of a better term, some golden handcuffs. You can't leave the local authority, or you can't leave the employer within 5 years. If you and if you do, then you need to pay back the tuition. You need to pay back X, Y, Z. Do we have any provisions like that within the Grow Your Own contracts?
We do. We have in our policies, if we invest in somebody and we put them through qualifications, etc., and they decide to leave within a period of time, there is a payback, there's a clawback. But what we were finding is that some authorities were agreeing to pay that, so that the employee didn't stay and not move along to the job that was in hand, or that was being offered by another authority or elsewhere. So it doesn't handcuff people indefinitely, because if people want to get around it. But that's where these memos of understanding and this working together across, particularly public sector, obviously we can't do anything about the private sector, where we're hoping that we can do that. And we also have a market forces supplements payments that we look at. If the market is dictating higher, then we can look at it and try and retain. And we've successfully done that for a number of years, but this simply just isn't sufficient. For example, social workers nationally, we know that. And so the teaching partnership program that we've gone through, and perhaps at the next time that you want to invite me along to Scrutiny, I'll bring along Jane, who leads on that for the council and does a fantastic job in terms of the investment that we put into our social workers in Calderdale, and how we're working across the place, and we're in a partnership with various councils at how we continue to do that, and all fighting for the same employees. Is not the right way forward. We've got to grow our own, as I've said earlier, but it's through the teaching partnership where there's significant support for social workers, and to date we've done really well on that. I've asked for a report on retention of the teaching partner, social workers, etc., to see how successful is that now, based on what it was 2 years ago, just so that we keep on our toes really with what we're doing, and keep moving with the times really. So I can provide that again at a later date, if that's okay, Councillor.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Councillor Parsons-Hulse.
Thank you, Chair, and yes, thank you, Jackie, for a really comprehensive report. It's a comment as well as a question. So I was involved in a project called the Politics Project recently. I don't know if any of you other members have been involved, but it's like a digital surgery that goes on at schools, and it's really interesting. So I asked them, what do you want to do when you leave school? And the first thing that came across was they want to be influencers. And so I went away thinking, what is this thing, influencer? And I started doing a little bit of research. These people are on like 10 grand a month, and these are young people. And then I found some other documents where, they were saying that, if they got involved in this influencing thing, and I just thought, oh my goodness, we've locked people up in the rooms for 2 years, and they found other ways of raising money. Anyway, I was having conversations with other people about this influencer thing, and this seems to be one of the reasons why people are not leaving their bedrooms. They're earning a hell of a lot of money online. I think we have a pandemic of this as a problem. I really do. And it's not just in Calderdale. There's all across the country, people are finding it difficult to get care workers, to get, let's say, the lower paid job. Well, if you can sit online and talk about a product or whatever, and let's not even start going on the more edgy side of influencing. There was a program I just talked basically about OnlyFans, and I just thought, oh my goodness, we have got a massive problem here, and I don't know how we're going to get out of it. We can't compete with that. We cannot compete with 10 grand a month. in any of our sectors, no matter how we're growing our own. So yeah, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I really don't know what the answer is. I'm quite worried about it. So yeah, just a comment. But if anyone else has got anything to add to that, I'd really be interested to hear. Thank you.
Good. I don't know if I don't know if I think that's probably more of a comment, Jackie. Really, the influencer scenario. I think it's quite unique in that it's probably not widespread. I think it's probably quite a niche issue, but I think the broad issue applies about pay and competing with other career options.
Have you seen how big Instagram is?
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it?
To get
it's not a niche, it's a lifestyle, and many of them are doing it. And I just cannot believe how many young people are doing it. Just start asking your constituents, do you know anyone who's an influencer? And for a child to come to me in a politics project and just that was all they wanted to talk about, that they want to be an influencer, and that was the only thing that was in the room. I thought, my goodness, where has our aspiration gone? Do you know what I mean? I think we've got an issue. I think we've got a problem, and it's a cultural situation. Anyway, it's
an interesting conundrum. There we go. Good. We'll go on to Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jackie, for the report and for your answers in relation to growing your own. It's really insightful, the work that's going on and continues to go on. My question is actually in relation to leadership. Leave the authority in quite quick succession for a variety of reasons. And I wonder how is this impacting on priorities, and how is the disruption to directorates being managed and minimised to ensure that important leadership is in place, but also there's that continuity across the workforce and council services.
Would you like me to respond, Chair?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So thank you for the question. It's been a big concern because we've had fairly static senior management for many years, as you know, and I think it's no different in any other organisation. We're seeing I've been doing some work with a neighbouring authority to help them recruit actually to my role in their council. And it was something that I wasn't interested in applying for, but they approached me and asked me if I'd help them recruit to it. And actually they are seeing, and they're not on their own, a number of very senior people leaving the authority and choosing alternative careers. Now, in our local authority, we've been fortunate really to retain people, and they retire from Calderdale. The majority of our senior leaders that have left have retired from Calderdale, not left Calderdale, which is very different. But notwithstanding the fact that, others will move on, it's a fact of life, that people want to be located either closer to home or they're reassessing the priorities. The pandemic has done that for all of us in terms of that work-life balance. And that's where I said back in, the last time I came to Scrutiny was March, and I said how we treat our staff during this pandemic will be indicative to our recruitment and retention in the future. And I have to say, Councillor Whittaker, that, we do look after our staff. We are a good employer, which is why we retain a number of staff. And we've got loyal staff that, I've been with the council for 38 years, and I'm proud to say I work for Calderdale and live in Calderdale, and there's many more like me. But let's not be under any illusions. That's not going to continue, as has already been said by Councillor Parsons in terms of what's out there, what is available. I get a monthly magazine from People Management, the CIPD, that we subscribe to as part of HR professionals, and TikTok, believe it or not, is very similar to the influencing approach. And, the headlines are, where are you going to get your talent from in the future? And this is a concern for the profession, absolutely is. And I totally agree. But in terms of the stability and leadership of the council, we're extremely lucky that we're still managing. For those of you that are involved in chief officer recruitment will be able to say, the applications that we're getting and the talent that we're attracting is phenomenal, really. And we don't need a lot. We don't need quantity. We need quality. And we're certainly getting that. We've made some really good appointments recently. And, you know, hopefully that will continue. And the leadership of the directorates is stabilising again. But we're going to go through a period of this because, you know, we're an ageing workforce. We tend to stay with Calderdale. We tend to retire from Calderdale, which is great. But obviously with that, we do lose some skills and knowledge. And what's really important, and I've done it with my direct reports, is that we grow them, and we grow them so that in the event that not just for leavers, but if, God forbid, one of us went off sick, that we've got capacity and we've got that expertise below us to step up and manage. And I always think what's indicative is if I have a week off and Robin has got what he needs from my direct reports, my job is done. That, you know, he doesn't notice when I'm not there, or he notices less because he's got the caliber and skills below me, and he has. And I think that's what we're all doing as a senior leadership team, and that's why we got the leadership, you know, the leadership team of the year from the MJ a couple of years back, because of what we do. But it is hard. I'm not going to say it's easy, Councillor, because it isn't. It's difficult, and we've got to keep going and keep thinking about new initiatives for those staff that we do lose.
Thank you, Councillor Porritt.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jackie. I'm still, I must admit, still slightly focused on Councillor Parsons-Hulse's OnlyFans. Not that I'm suggesting she has one herself, but just
No.
it's brought in such a different element, and my question feels quite pedestrian by comparison. But it's it's shaking things up a little bit. Going back to the apprenticeships question, I appreciate that apprenticeships come. People come to apprenticeships at different levels, not just different ages, but different levels. And I'm assuming we're talking mostly about post GCSE offer with these apprenticeships. And obviously we have graduates coming in, and we've got the T levels alongside the apprenticeships. But I know that one thing that when my son was initially looking at higher education, one of the things that him and his friends were all desperately looking for was degree apprenticeships, which were very, very thin on the ground. And you could get the level, is it the level 3, which is the sort of A-level post GCSE one. But the degree apprenticeships were very difficult to come by. And I wondered whether that was something else that we were offering to sort of fill that gap between the level 3 and the graduates.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Chair, do you want me to respond to that? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, we have absolutely done that. We've got a number of people that have come in at that level. The Local Government Association runs a grad programme that we've, in the past, we got 3 in one go. We only want, we were looking at 2, but because of the calibre of applicant, we pushed it to recruit a 3rd one. And we're going on to do another programme of that with the Local Government Association. But notwithstanding that, we've brought people in planning, engineering at that level, and we'll continue to. We've done it in HR, people that have come in, worked for us, done an apprenticeship, and then decided that they want to go on and do the degree and then come back through a graduate programme. That's sort of part of this launch that I wanted to do this autumn winter time with regard to the whole offer that is available, so that we can absolutely, I suppose, really map out exactly what the opportunities are in joining Calderdale, so that we are as attractive as we possibly can be. And then when I go out to talk to schools and colleges and universities, these are the conversations that I'm having with them about, have you thought about a career in local government? Apprenticeships are open aged, but by default they do tend to attract younger people. But in my team, I attracted 2 mature health and safety people into apprenticeships that have gone on to do fantastic things. They've both got permanent jobs. They had a change in career, and they are an absolute asset to the council. And it's not just my team, it's across the council. We've got real success stories that I really want to market and put out there as part of this recruitment campaign, so that we're appealing to everybody in all age groups, really.
Just to clarify, I was thinking more in terms of people who perhaps have stayed on at school or gone to a 6th form college and completed their A-levels and are maybe looking for an alternative to a degree.
Yeah.
Whether there is something at that level that is, you know, when you do your degree alongside working and potentially getting paid, whether that sort of gap is being, because I appreciate we've got our graduates, and I've met some of the graduates in planning, but that sort of area as well, which seems to be a reasonably ill served at the moment, as much as it theoretically exists. I know there's not that many of them around.
Yeah, we do offer that. And that's exactly what I did when I came into the council in the early 80s. I did my degree alongside working and went to university 3 nights a week. And I also got half a day release. And we're going back to that because actually that is the future. Certainly one of my health and safety people again, that is currently now, he's now acting as, he does job share with the health and safety manager. He came in that route, very clever, very well qualified, didn't want to go to university, wanted to look at the options, and he did exactly what I did when I came into the council about going and getting his qualifications. We sponsored him through that, and you know, it absolutely works. And it's going back to what used to be the old local government programme where you did 3 months in each service. And I really do think there's a niche for that to come back. And, you know, if I just take my daughter as an example, she didn't want to go away and get a load of debt in terms of getting to university and all the rest of it. And she's managed to work and do, probably because of the pandemic, and do her qualifications at the same time. And, you know, she's just got into to do a master's at the Imperial in London, which is fantastic. But she's been able to earn, not get into debt. And that's what we need to be encouraging more across the piece, really. So it's something that we are definitely encouraging and will put as part of the offer that we look at for the recruitment campaign. Sorry, just to come back on that as well, I'm talking to academies, sixth form colleges, etc., about this very option that, you know, university isn't for every person, and there are alternatives. Have you considered? And we've had a few that have asked for work experience with us that have gone through a similar programme and have said, well, actually, can I come and try out? This is my interest. And we're giving them work experience in a number of areas, just to try and tease them in, really, more than anything as well. But it's good. It's an alternative to going to university if they don't want to go away from home.
I've just popped on how much the Instagram influencers are making.
Yeah.
You want to look at it later. And
you're not trying to tempt us away from being local councillors, are you, Amanda?
10 grand a month, I tell you, I couldn't believe it. But you know, this program, it had a doctor on it, and it was so sad. She was gonna, you know, she was like, why would I want to earn, you know, work for 80 hours a week when I can work for 5 and earn the same amount of money. She was sitting there in a paid 4-bed house, and I just thought, what? And the interviewed her, and they said, are you going to go back to the NHS? She said, why would I want to do that? Sorry, Chair, I'm ranting now, but I am really worried about it. Sorry.
You and I both.
You're on mute, Councillor Robinson.
Sorry, thank you. It is an interesting one because is there an element, though, of misinformation here? Because fair enough, there could be a certain number of people who are making £10,000 a month. I don't know. But there's going to be a lot of people who are not making 10,000 a month, you know?
You can have a look at it. It's talking about
but you know, there's an element of everyone wants to be a singer. How many people make it to be a singer, you know? And in some ways it is quite there is an element of how do we in some ways need to try and tackle this news that you can easily get an Instagram account and make £10,000 a month, you know? Is there an element that
just do it another time, George?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Have a little look. I shocked, to put it that way. And I was talking to people who were looking for apprentices, and they were hairdresser. It was a hairdresser down Skirkett Green. She was looking for an apprentice, and the woman who was leaving was pregnant, and she just basically, and historically, she would have asked a friend, you know, do you want to come and be an apprentice? I said, what's your friend doing? She just looked at me. I said, don't tell me she's on OnlyFans. She just stared. I thought, I can't believe that I'm even having this conversation. You know,
I think it's
body shaming and all that shaming stuff has gone. You know, it's like we're really body positive now. It's like, to what extent? You know, where have we gone with that? That is just scary stuff.
Bizarre. I'll move on to Councillor Thornber in that case.
I'm going to go quiet.
In that event.
Thank you, Chair. I think
Yeah.
you'll be all glad to hear I am on Instagram or OnlyFans, so don't worry about that, mate. Thank you, Jackie, for your report. My question is regarding the increase in staff taking early retirement, which you can't blame them, but as it says in your report, the knowledge and the experience. Is there anything? Fair enough, you don't want to stop them taking that option or put any barriers in, but such as different work practices, part-time and until if taper the time off. One of the issues I have to raise with likes the rights of way. I was dealing with an issue, and a well-known officer being in that department retired, and there was no one to take his place. And this issue seemed to just, had no one to go to regarding it. I'm probably still dealing with it, but no one's complained about it to me. But the problem I had no one else. I was reliant on another officer what moved to a job just to advise me what to really do. But I know that's just a one-off. But as I said, is there anything we can do to sort of retain them as such till we get replacement?
Is it okay to respond, Chair?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, absolutely, there is, Councillor Thornber, and in fact, I've just had I've had two conversations today with managers about flexible retirement that we offer. Flexible retirement gives the benefit of the individual that maybe is ready to phase into retirement, but not necessarily full-blown retirement. And what we do is we agree, where possible, a reduction in the working week or a reduction in salary, so they might want to drop down a grade and not work at that level, or both actually. And what that does is enables us to grow the next cohort of individual to slot in, work alongside the person that is reducing, to glean as much knowledge as possible without them just leaving and taking all that wealth of knowledge, experience, skills, etc. with them. And it gives a win-win for both parties. They get access to they can access the pension and start a new pension on the reduced hours, and we can then recruit and backfill. And we've done quite a number of these successfully. I'm doing it in my team with I mentioned the health and safety manager. He's taken flexible retirement, and what I've got is one of the health and safety officers that started out as an apprentice, and a real success story, growing him into that role so that they're working alongside each other, and he's mentoring and maturing and able to take on that role in the future. And that's what we're doing. It's part of good workforce planning, part of something that the commercialisation team are looking at is visioning days, to look at the planning and the business planning of the service with a view to starting to make sure that we've got a strategy for when people leave and people are grown into the roles. And we're doing more and more of that. But flexible retirement has become incredibly popular. During the pandemic, people were starting to think about retiring early, but I think that's really slowed down because of the economy situation, where people are now thinking, actually, I'm not sure I'm able to. And actually what we are seeing is a returner. We're seeing a lot of returners, people saying, I'd like to come back on a part-time capacity now. Is there something available? So we're getting skills back. Likewise, we've had a number of legal solicitors that have left. We've had 3 that have returned within a short period of time that have said, I'd like to come back. So that's really good, because I think what they're going out and experiencing coming back is saying, actually, Calderdale is a good employer, but it's not until you go out there that you see that, and then you want, people are wanting to come back. So we've got some real success stories, as well as, it is difficult. I'm not going to say it's not. It's probably one of my most difficult years as a local government officer in terms of the recruitment retention, and yet we're in a much more fortunate position than other neighbouring authorities, as I said earlier, that we're not having the 200 vacancies per week that I know one authority's got, but nevertheless it's a constant challenge. And as I've said, we're not resting on our laurels, and we're continuing to keep thinking about how we continue to make sure that we retain and recruit suitable people.
Through you, Chair, can I just ask another quick question?
Yeah.
It's just regarding well, I mentioned people coming up to retirement. Workforce coming into the council, you know, in the 50s, and you know, we don't really look at them as in, oh, we're only going to get another 10 years out of these. But also, if employing people, like I say, in the early 50s, but they don't want to work full time, you know, because there's a lot of people through this pandemic what's had a career change, you know, airline pilots, gone van driving, and they love it, and they don't want to go back to flying planes. So it's just having a flexible workforce.
Yeah, and I've covered that in the report about the flexibility that we offer in Calderdale. Some councils have said that their workforce has got to go back into the office so many days a week. We've left it to managers to look at their service and say what it needs, what they can operate, how they want to operate, and that's. It's a USP for us in terms of retaining people being able to move around the country, not be tied to a particular area, or indeed people applying to come to work for Calderdale that they can work remotely. And flexibility in terms of part-time contracts is something that we constantly agree to and allow, not just for family-friendly reasons, but across the piece, you know, people like grandparents that have got responsibility for grandchildren for one reason or another, that they've said, can we reduce down to part-time? And we always look at it. We always look at this too, and we'll trial it. If we don't think it's going to work, but we're not, you know, we've got reservations, we'll trial it for a 6-month period, and make sure it's, you know, it's conducive to service requirements and delivery, etc. But we would never outline it and say, you know, this is not going to happen, and we won't consider it, because I think actually we've got more proof that it does work. And actually, generally speaking, you get twofold back, you know, in terms of being so flexible with people and cooperative. So yeah, we're doing an awful lot of that: flexible working, reduced working, part-time working, job share. It's absolutely on the increase for the very reasons that you just said, Councillor Thornber.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. If I may, I was just going to come in at this point and just ask a few questions, if I may, Jackie. Obviously, we've mentioned that we think Calderdale's a good employer. I just want to dig a little on that point, and explore the currencies which we offer to our employees. Now, obviously, you've got pay. That's the first currency. You've got pension. You've got reward schemes. You know, you've done a really good job. Here's a gift voucher, for example. You've got things like cashback cards. You know, money off petrol, etc. And then we've got the areas which are in council control. You know, the gym memberships, possibly parking. You know, prompts recycling collections, etc. I'm just wondering, out of these currencies, you know, what do we currently offer our staff? And then after this strategy, what are we going to offer staff? You know, I'm just interested in exploring that.
Yeah, so 1.10 of the report, I cover the fact that we're relaunching our reward and benefits scheme. We're currently reviewing the reward and recognition survey feedback that we got from staff to not jump to a solution before knowing what the issues are. What do you want? How do you want to, you know, how can we support you without the normal, as you say, the cash rewards, that we can't as an organisation just wave a wand at this and I haven't got a silver bullet as much as I'd love one. So we're looking at what we offer currently. Now, the platform that we currently use and we're tied into with other local authorities has come to an end. Some local authorities are pulling out of it because they're saying that they can't afford to do this, or it's not got the rewards that they'd expected. So we're at the moment just exploring what we can do in terms of our benefits scheme, working with our network, with the people board, with the employee reference group to say what would be appealing. And what we're finding is that they want local offers, which is great in terms of growing our local economy. It plays right into our hands. So what we've done is we've opened up our current benefits scheme to local suppliers, if you like to say, would they like to market their services, and will they give our staff a discount of 10% or whatever, you know, and that's proving quite popular. But when we relaunch this reward and recognition and the benefits scheme. That's one of the things we're doing. I'm also looking at things like salary sacrifice. At the moment, we've got people accessing the salary sacrifice, whether that's for car leasing, bike scheme, buying and selling holidays in terms of, when they want more holidays in the school holidays. Really popular with our staff. And going back to Councillor Thornber's sort of question around flexibility and how do we support our staff? These are really popular things. And today it's hot off the press, but I'm looking at AVCs where our staff make additional voluntary contributions to the pension, getting a salary sacrifice so that it's a win-win for them and a win-win for the authority. We'll hopefully save quite a significant amount of money on that, and they will too. So I'm looking at things that I can do to support our staff within the parameters of the budget, if you like, and we're just ploughing on with that, and I'm hoping that will be in place for next April, if not sooner. I've put a deadline of next April as the ultimate, but I'd like it in before the end of the year, and I'm working with a company called AVC Wise that are recognised under our framework, under the procurement framework. So we're just working on that with legal and procurement, but you can see we're looking at every single possibility. I've just been in contact with another organisation through the NHS that are looking at all sorts of benefits that they're offering, and I'm trying to piggyback onto what they provide, and I got a response to that. I've just come back from a week's leave, and I sent it just before I went on leave, and I've just got a response back to say, yeah, you can we're happy for you to join us, Jackie, and we'll give you some contacts within the trust that will allow you to access it. So the new head of people over there I've been in conversation with. So we're looking at everything possible. I'm exploring anything that I find out from not just public sector but private sector. What do they provide? We can't offer, like some private sectors locally are offering a £500 payment to their staff that have worked entirely, significantly throughout the pandemic. It'd be great if we could, but we can't. We're a public sector. We're accountable to the public purse. So we've got to look at alternatives, and I'm really exploring some of these alternatives that are within budget, because we just don't have the funding, do we, that others have. So one of the things that I'm looking at is advanced on mileage payments, people that are struggling with the mileage payments, because what happens is you get it paid retrospectively. You do the miles, you put in a claim, and it's paid retrospectively. So there's no upfront payments. I'm looking at what we can do in terms of, that work mileage, so that staff are not having to pay it out of the pockets, and we can receive the bulk of their expenses in advance as opposed to retrospectively. That comes with all sorts of difficulties, as you'd expect, because it needs to be auditable and all the rest of it. When I first started in the early 80s, we used to have fuel cards, which we got rid of. Some organisations are really looking at that. It's not an area that I'd like to pursue, but I do want to ensure that our staff have got the support that they need when they need it. And we're also looking at where staff can access a proportion of the salary as the month progresses to spread out the bulk of debt and payment at the pay period end. So things that will make things a little bit easier. It just softens the blow. It doesn't, obviously it doesn't give them more money, but it gives them the money when they need it. We've also got the pensions option where staff can look at reducing what we call a 50-50 scheme, where if they're having difficulty, for example, they're in a relationship and one of them loses their job, there might be a period of time where they need to reduce the pension outgoings just for a period of time, and we've got a 50-50 scheme. So putting all this into a package for staff to say, do you know this is what we can do? I'm also doing going out to our non-enabled staff, which is a cause for concern for me, that we need to connect our non-enabled staff some way, shape or form. And I'm looking at, forgive me for calling it an app because that's old fashioned now, but through our Microsoft 365 system, we're hoping to connect the staff. And I've been out to at least 3 now services where they are not currently connected through email because the job is frontline and it's hands-on, to say, okay, would you be interested if I can get you connected on our wellbeing initiatives, and just getting all the workforce connected in terms of the surveys and making sure that we're representative of the whole organisation when we consider some of the offers that we're going out with. And that's proving really successful at the minute.
Yeah. Good. No, so a lot going on in that case, and I think it's a perfect discussion to have at this moment in time whilst you're ultimately forming the strategy and what to include. Councillor Hutchinson, and then I'll pass on to Councillor Dacre for last comments.
Thanks, Chair. My experience in some other large public sector organisations is that there can be a tendency to try and manage budgetary problems by not immediately replacing or recruiting to staff who have left, so that even though people might give many months' notice that they're leaving, the recruitment programme doesn't actually get started until very late, which then not only causes problems with the service delivery, but also puts additional stress on remaining staff who are having to cover. How much of an issue is that here? Are we sure that the recruitment is as prompt as it could be to reduce that stress?
Chair, if I may, I'll respond to that, if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Councillor Hutchinson, it's a valid point. Vacancy management, we call it, in terms of managing that vacancy and looking at, sometimes it's an easy target. It has been in the past in the council, and I think, you know, we've had our fingers burnt by that, really, in terms of it's an easy option sometimes to, you know, delete a post and not think about I call them the survivors, the people that are left to deliver the service, and that's something that we've really looked very closely at, because we can no longer continue to provide the same services with the reduction in staffing. So what we've done is we had, some of you will know about VRG, the Vacancy Resourcing Group, where posts had to go through that, which myself and the Head of Finance, Nigel Broadbent, previously co-chaired that, in terms of looking at all vacancies before they went out, to actually look at, do we actually need to replace this post? Now, it was not just a consequence when a coincidence when Nigel retired, that Robin and I had a discussion about this, and I said, look, we're at a position now where I think we can pass this back to services. They know the process better than anybody. It will stop any delays on recruitment, and the recruitment team are very swift when they get a vacancy to deal with it and move it forward. Sometimes the manager is delayed because of the other priorities that they've got on, but I think investment is the hardest part. If you invest the time, then you will shortcut the work that you've got to do as a consequence of somebody either going on maternity. We know that somebody's going to finish. By and large, it takes 9 months. You know, it's not rocket science, and you need to move swiftly, and sometimes you know, delays have been due to workforce problems, you know, people being off or managers having high workloads, and I think that's reduced significantly. The recruitment team are very efficient for, you know, for such a tiny little team, chasing up references, getting those back timely, making sure that we get people in the door as quick as we can, onboarding, we call it, you know, to get them in, started, inducted, ready to hit the ground running, and we are doing really well at that at the minute. So I think it's turned a huge corner in the last 12 months, definitely.
I mean, it's really important when, as you say, we're sitting in the middle of a number of other authorities all looking to recruit. If you're too sluggish, then you will lose good candidates.
Yeah, totally agree. And at times, though, there are good reason for delaying going out, because there's certain times of the year where it's, you know, people are not looking for employment at a senior level, and September's a really good time to look at recruiting chief officers, for example. But we've gone out as quickly as we can, depending on the service, you know, that we're dealing with, and they're all different, you know. But yeah, I take on board what you're saying there, and we have dealt with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dacre, final comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, just following on from what Jackie just said then, I think one of the other issues can sometimes be that when somebody's leaving, there's a need to look at the role profile again, especially because so many people have worked for Calderdale for so many years that they end up doing things which are not actually in their role. And so it becomes absolutely crucial to try and make sure that when you recruit the next person, it accurately reflects, the role accurately reflects what they're actually expected to do. What I really wanted to say, though, was it was going back to what you said, Chair, about that you felt that the board and members could add value here. And one, I suppose, plea I'd put forward here is that all members can assist in our recruitment and retention of staff by the public comments that they make about the council and its staff. It's working for a council, you're on the front line. What we do matters to members of the public a great deal. Members of the public can be very unforgiving and unkind about what happens, and it's I appreciate it's a fine line, because there are times when it is right and proper that we challenge the council, and or opposition members, for instance, challenge or the leading the ruling party of the council. But I just ask everybody to bear in mind the impact that public criticism, or what could be perceived as criticism, can have on staff working in the council, and the willingness of people to carry on working in a public facing body like that, rather than deciding that they'd rather go somewhere where they don't get that level of public scrutiny. So I'm not wanting to close down debate or challenge, but just pause before you maybe think about how you word things. And the other point on that is that, you know, that we this year were able to move back to having the All Stars presentation in public, or in public, but not online, in person. And again, I'd encourage members to go to that next year, however it's organised next year, because again, it is that opportunity to show to staff that we as councillors actually care about the staff, and we do think they're trying the best. And it does have, again, that effect of or I hope can have that effect of boosting morale, which is just so important in trying to encourage people to think that Calderdale Council is somewhere that they want to work. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very valid point. About the event. I think when it took place last time, I seem to recall it. I think it was quite early or something. There was a reason, like diary clash, why I couldn't go. But I think it sounded like a great event at the time. I totally take the point about members being, I think, more involved in the recruitment process. I was wondering, Councillor Dacre, you know, the people board. It sounds like a great board. Is there any chance, would you be amenable to the strategy scrutiny board seconding one of our members to join you on that absolutely great board?
Can we take that away and I'll discuss it? And I am the chair, but it's not just down to me. So if I can take that away and discuss it with Jackie, because I know that you've seen in the terms of reference, we've already got a number of members and there's potential for more, and we don't want it to be too big so that it's an unwieldy board. But yes, I think it's a worthwhile suggestion, and we'll certainly discuss it and get back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that'll be appreciated, because I think it makes sense for us to all be linked up in our approach here. And if you never know, there might be a member who is already on the strategy board, so that easily ticks off that one. But that could be quite an interesting thing. And the other point, before I bring Jackie in, would it be possible for us as a board? I understand that the workforce strategy is going to be released, is it February 2023? Could we either officially or unofficially have eyes on that and provide comment as a board? Would that be possible?
Would you like me to respond to that one?
Yeah, Jackie, yeah.
Is that okay? So as part of the stakeholder consultation, members will be contacted anyway, and we'll have input, but I don't see why not, that I can't bring that back at some point in the future, in the new year, regardless of whether, you know, members take up the offer to have a conversation, whether that's collectively, individually, or what have you. So happy to do that if you want to leave that with me. And just to come back on a couple of things, if I may, that Councillor Dacre has raised quite rightly, the values and vision and behaviours of the organisation is what's attracting people to, like, chief officer vacancies, which is phenomenal, really, that they absolutely love the values and the vision and our vision for 2024 and beyond. And it's interesting how many of these applicants can cite what it is and the research that they've done around it and how it fits in with their values and behaviours. So you know, I think that's really important. And I think it's really important, as Councillor Dacre says, in terms of, you know, the marketing and the discussion that goes online, and the support from members has also been recognised by applicants, that we've got a good set of members, a good cohort of cross, even though there's cross challenge, there is still respect and value between officers and members. And that should never be underestimated, because I can't tell you how many times that's come out in chief officer recruitment over the past 2 years. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. And then the other thing that I forgot to mention is about apprenticeships, that I want to develop them into permanent roles in the future, that there is some guarantee at the end of it. There's almost a guarantee, but it's not written. And I think we need to do a bit more on the apprenticeships with regard to saying this is the path that you will follow if you're successful with your apprenticeship, not guaranteeing a job, but almost saying this is the path that you can go down, and giving some permanency, and around the pay as well for apprenticeships, looking at the living wage that we pay to our staff, and extending that beyond. So I'm working on that as well, and I forgot to mention it earlier, and I just think it's really important to mention that you know, we're not age discriminatory, and we welcome applications from all cohorts, and we want an inclusive workforce going forward, because that's got to be the future, to make sure that we are reflective, or else we're missing huge talent that's out there.
Yeah.
So just a couple of bits there, if I may.
Perfect. No, brilliant. I think it's been a really fruitful discussion, and I definitely want to take you up on that offer, Jackie. And when it comes to the workforce strategy, when there's a draft, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be an official meeting. It could be, we could do it offline, we could do written comments, you know, whatever works for you. But I think that could be a really interesting thing for us to get involved with before it's published. And on that, I want to really thank Jackie for your time. You ooze passion when it comes to all things HR and OD. So I really want to thank you, Jackie. It's really inspirational, not only your passion for what you do, but also your passion for Calderdale Council. So thank you for coming, and also thank you, Councillor Dacre, as well for attending. Appreciate your time. Also, Jackie, there's an interesting thing on the work programme. You don't need to stay, don't worry, but on the work programme, we're looking at possibly a review on, it's called Retaining Northern Talent. So it's basically, how do we retain people in the north rather than the pull to London? I think that could be quite interesting for your thoughts on that one as well. So good. The work programme then, in that case, can I move on to Lauren? Have you got any comments on the work programme?
Thanks, Chair. Just to say that the version members have got is the most up to date. I've just double checked with Councillor Dacre, and the corporate plan is going to Cabinet on Monday, so that will be ready to come to S&P next time, along with the quite big item on political engagement. Myself and Mike met with all of the officers involved, and Claire from the Youth Council, who supports the Youth Council. So we've scoped some of that item out now. I think it was proposed originally by Councillor Porritt. Excuse me. So that's ready to come. And as always, just to say, if there's any new items or anything members want to amend on there, if you can just let us know as soon as possible, that would be great. In terms of detailed reviews, we've got the cost of living crisis scrutiny in a day next week. We're actually going to stream that on YouTube. So I'll share that link with everybody so that people can reach that either on the day or afterwards. And we're going to make sure that we tweet about that and sort of get it on the council's Facebook if we can. I think that's everything from me for now, unless anybody's got any questions.
Perfect. Any questions on the work programme at all? Action packed? Nope. Brilliant. Well, if there is, as always, please do email Laura, myself, and or Mike. More that if you've got any ideas on what you want on there, they are most welcome. But on that note, I want to thank all members for coming. Thank you very much. I must admit, I do like this 2-item agenda. I think we've got much more time to look in depth in items, so I do really like that. But if there's no further comments, I'll close the meeting. Nope.
Thank you, Chair.
Perfect. Thank you very